Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I will talk about the poem called Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. So this poem is about how the world might end. Frost cleverly uses fire and ice as symbols to explain two strong human emotions. So he has metaphorically used this object called fire for human emotions like desire, passion, and greed, which can lead to destruction. Similarly, he also used the other natural element, ice, metaphorically, and this ice actually metaphorically representing hatred, coldness, and indifference. And these are the qualities which can also bring about ruin. So, the poet warns us that both desire and hatred are dangerous. Whether the world ends in fire or ice, the result is the same destruction. So, in short, Frost teaches us that our emotions, if not controlled, can be as destructive um, as natural disasters. So, critics also believe that the poem is a moral reflection on human behavior, showing that extreme desires and hatred can ruin the world. So Robert Frost lived from 1874 to 1963 and was one of the most important American poets of the 20th century. He became famous for writing poems about nature and rural life, especially the countryside of New England. He portrayed through his poetry. However, his poems are not only about nature, they also express human emotions and experiences such as choices, loneliness, struggle, and hope. So, when we talk about Robert Frost, then we have to say that he was a kind of nature poet. But unlike the romantic poets, he used nature as a symbol to reflect human experiences such as joys, struggle, loneliness, duty, and responsibility. So his poems basically uh, on the surface level, they appear very simple, but they always carry deeper philosophical meanings. One of the striking features that one can find in Robert Frost's poetry is that his use of colloquial language or the language that people speak on daily basis. So this made his poems realistic, relatable, and easy for common readers to understand. At the same time, he also followed traditional poetic forms, rhyme schemes, and meters, which gave his poetry musical quality and discipline. Now that we know a little about Robert Frost, let's talk about some of his most famous poems. First, we have The Road Not Taken. So, you all must have heard these lines which say, Two roads diverge in a yellow wood. So, this poem is basically about the choices we make in life. The road the poet chooses represents a decision, and the road he doesn't take represents opportunities left behind. Frost shows us how one choice can change our entire future. So, this is what he has said in this poem. Next is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So, in this poem, the poet stops near a forest and watches the snow falling quietly. So it feels peaceful and calm, right? But the poem also reminds us that even though we want to rest and enjoy beauty, but in life we have responsibilities to fulfill. So that's why he says, and miles to go before I sleep. Then we have Mending Wall. So here in this poem, Frost talks about two neighbors repairing a wall every year. So one neighbor believes that Good fences make good neighbors, while the other questions, do we really need this wall? So, through this, Frost makes us think about boundaries, both physical and emotional. Another poem that he wrote is Bridges. So, in this poem, Frost describes bridge trees bending, but he does not stop at nature. He connects it to childhood. He talks about how children climb these trees and swing on them. It's playful, but it's also shows our desire to escape life's troubles and go back to simpler times. Finally, there is this poem called Fire and Ice. So, this is a very short poem but very powerful. Why? Because Frost in this poem talks about how the world might end. So, we have this popular beliefs about the world that the world might end either in fire or in ice. So fire stands for desire and passion, ice stands for hatred and coldness. So the poem is actually about strong human emotions that can destroy the world. So without any further ado, let's look at the first stanza of Robert Frost, Fire and Ice. So the first stanza begins in this way that says that some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So this poem begins with a simple statement, but it introduces a big philosophical idea, the end of the world. So Frost immediately captures the reader's attention by talking about something universal and dramatic, the possible destruction of the world. So here Frost mentions fire and ice, but he is not talking about literal fire or ice here. So these are metaphors for human emotions. So fire symbolizes desire, greed, and passion, whereas ice symbolizes hatred, coldness, and indifference. So when he says that some people, so he says that some people believe that this theory that someday the world will end in fire, and on the other hand there are some other people who believe this completely different idea, that some people say that the world will end in ice. But in the next two lines, the poet says that from what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So then in these two lines, he clarifies his stand. He says that, so whatever I have experienced throughout my life, I have talked with people, I had this chance to spend days, years with people, and from the experience of my life, I have understood that people's desire are like limitless. The poet clarifies his stand and he says that he agrees that yes, it is correct that the world could end because of fire. So here fire, as I said, the fire does not only mean real flames, it also stands for desire and greed, the strong desire people have. For example, when a person keeps wanting more money and is never satisfied, it can destroy their peace and relationships. So when two countries desire for more power and land, they may start wars. When people desire fame or success too much, they may cheat or harm others. So all these examples that I have just given show how desire like fire can burn and destroy. So this is what the poet wants to convey through this poem, that we need to control our emotions, that if we do not control our emotion, then the world will become a place which will be completely a toxic place where it is not possible for us to live, because everyone will become so self-centered. They won't look for like kindness, generosity. They will always try to find out that what it would bring me. Is there any thing that will be beneficial for me? So, this is what the poet wants to convey, that we need to be selfless. In the second stanza, the poet says that, but if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of it to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. So, here in this stanza, the speaker hypothetically considers that if the world would end again, then ice is also, or ice can be also the reason for world's end. So, first is actually talking about ice in this stanza, and which has been represented as a metaphor for hatred, coldness, and lack of love. Now, when the poet says, but if it had to perish twice, so Frost imagines that the world would end a second time. If the world could end a second time, the first time he talked about fire, meaning desire, now he is saying, even if it doesn't end that way, there is another way through ice or hate. So here Frost is drawing from human experience. He has seen enough hatred, cruelty, and coldness in the world to know their power. Hate doesn't burn like fire, but it freezes everything, relationships, friendships, or even communities. So, from his personal experience, he shares this with us, with the reader, that I have experienced a lot, and from my experience, if I judge, so then I have to say that even this uh, ice, even this ice has the capacity, even end, to destroy the world. So Frost then says that to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. So Frost says that hatred is just as destructive as desire. Even though it's cold and quiet, it can destroy hearts, friendships, and peace. When we become indifferent, when we become indifferent to injustice, to ill treatment, then we become inhuman, and we just let the people fight. And this is how we are approaching towards people nowadays. So, suppose, for example, I can give an example. Suppose if two friends hold grudges for years, their friendship dies. That's the power of ice. Hatred between communities or countries can lead to wars and violence, freezing understanding and compassion. Even in families, coldness, neglect, or resentment can destroy love over time. So, look, desire, fire can destroy, yes, but also do not underestimate hate. It is quiet, but it's just as dangerous as fire is. It can freeze everything it touches, and in its own way, it is enough to destroy the world. To conclude, I just want to say that though many people believe the theory that the world may end in fire or ice, Robert Frost actually gives us a deeper message here through this poem. So he just wants to say that apart from these natural forces, human beings themselves are capable of destroying the world. If we fail to control our emotions, our desires, greed, hatred, and coolness, our behavior can lead to destruction. Unchecked desire can cause wars, exploitation, and suffering, while on the other hand, hatred can divide people, break relationships, and destroy peace. So, therefore, the real danger does not lie only in fire or ice, but in human emotions and actions. Frost reminds us that in order to preserve this world, in order to save this world, we need to self control, we need to understand, we need to compassionate with each other, and these are the elements which are essential, because without them humanity itself can become the greatest destructive force on earth.